Greetings, everyone, and welcome. August the 19th, 2025, early afternoon here in Ukraine. Currently, there is a coalition of the willing meeting going on. It began at 1400 hours, which is about right now, Ukraine time. But as you can see in the thumbnail, and I want to jump straight in because something very important happened in Zelensky's Ukrainian press conference. So we're going to jump right in. This is why the title is, This is Ukraine's Trump card. Zelensky was able to play multiple cards, one of which being the letter from his wife to Melania Trump. That was a good moment that we can focus on issues that are dear to not only Melania Trump and the president's wife here in Ukraine, but also the world, the release of children, humanitarian issues. But the biggest trump card that Zelensky was able to play was he was able to communicate directly as the commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian army directly to Donald Trump and the American team about the real situation of the war in Ukraine, not through another voice, not from Russia, not from some social media, but directly. So this is what we're going to jump into. And what's interesting is this interview was in Ukrainian. I have it for you in English, and we'll jump right in. Thank you for being here. Thank you for liking, subscribing, commenting, and we appreciate each and every one of you very, very much. So the mission accomplished. Zelensky came out. You can see he's standing in front of the White House, and he speaks to Ukrainian journalists for a little bit, and I'm sure there were others there, but he's speaking in Ukrainian, not English. And the first clip I'm going to play is the Trump card, and that is I, as the commander-in-chief, was able to share the truth about the battlefront. Here it is. First of all, thank you for the conversation, for covering everything that's happening, and for your support. I would like to thank President Trump for this meeting. This was the best of our meetings, and this is important. Besides the fact that we have talked about a lot and a long conversation in many details, and I was able to show many things, even on the map, to all my American colleagues regarding the situation on the battlefield. This is someone, me, who is not just a rumor, but someone who is really in control on the battlefield, on our land, on our territory, which we control in the temporarily occupied territories. So there you have it. He even mentions temporarily occupied territories. What does that mean? That means that the goal is that they are in the future liberated and restored to Ukraine. But what is most important there is he was stating, I, the commander-in-chief, and I am one who is directly in control of the military action in our country. I do this every day. I visit the front lines. I know the activity, the truth, and I was able to share it. That is a great thing for Ukraine. And now we have to be patient to see how it unfolds. Let's not look for rumors, not chase after stories that may be true or not true. Now we wait. Facts must unfold. The second thing he was able to say is clearly, if we discuss territory, it's not going to happen with Donald Trump. It's not even going to happen with the European coalition. That is a conversation for Putin and I. This is a very sensitive moment, and I wanted to talk about it. I think the president heard and he saw this, and there were different moments, but this is important information. And so the issue of territory, that is an issue which we will leave between me and Putin. So that's it, guys. This is good. Mission accomplished. We have movement toward that. Now, what unfolds from it, we will see. That's all we can do. So what is happening here in Ukraine right now? Well, while the meetings were going on, or right after them, Russia attacked the Poltava-Kremenchuk region with 270 drones. 2 out of 5 ballistic missiles were taken out. 4 out of 5 cruise missiles were destroyed last night over Ukraine. There were 16 direct hits, and the most important is a serious fuel infrastructure facility was hit in Kremenchuk, and it is still burning as of now. You can see the map. The yellow is where the drones flew. The strikes is that you can see highlighted by the explosion symbol, and how the missiles flew in. We were talking about this on the live last night with Johnny and Professor Curtis. This was happening. It did unfold, and there were large strikes. Even now, we have these regions that are still without power, and that is in process to be restored. Now, how about this morning, Ukraine striking Russian supply fuel train? You can see it here. I'm actually showing you an image from a drone coming in, but this train was struck down south of Zaporizhia into the southwest of Melitopol. This train is done. It's not going anywhere. It is destroyed. You can see the images even from long-range drone reconnaissance. Ukraine has struck. So while all of these talks are going on, the war is raging. Big strike from Russia on Ukraine, and Ukraine this morning, as you can see, that's in the daylight, returned and destroyed a Russian fuel train. So now, one of the things that we need to look for and listen to, because we're going to hear so much rhetoric coming out of Washington, D.C., out of the European leaders. But remember, there are two sides to this coin. So we have heard now from Ushakov, from Medvedev, and also from Lavrov. And I want to share those with you over the next minute or so we understand clearly. Guys, there's not going to be a meeting between Zelenskyy and Putin tomorrow. And we hear, the positive signals, but the reality is Ushakov made it very clear. And here it is. As you can see, here is officially from the Kremlin.ru, and this is Yuri Ushakov, and that says Pomochnik Prezidenta Rossiya. So he is the assistant to the president of Russia, and he was there on the call, and this is what he says. The idea was discussed that it would be necessary to study the possibility of raising the level of representatives of the Ukrainian and Russian sides or delegations. That is, those representatives who participate in the negotiations he mentioned. That's Trump. It is characteristic that Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump agreed and gave honestly on the Ukrainian and other pressing issues of the international and bilateral agenda. So there you have it. That is directly from Ushakov. So what do we take from that? Well, with the experience that we have with Russia, now what they're going to just do is drag their feet, maybe try to raise the delegation level a little bit. What would that mean? Would that mean a Lavrov would speak to a Sabiga? I don't know. Nobody knows. That is why we have to be patient and wait. But we heard what came out of D.C., now we've heard what has come out of the Kremlin. Now, of course, the lunatics in Russia start talking. One, Dmitry Medvedev. And yes, he gets so much memes and jokes about him, the alcoholic going crazy. But I remind you that Donald Trump responded to Medvedev directly just weeks ago. So he's not just a silent voice. And I'm going to show you the other half of this picture in a moment. But Dmitry Medvedev saying the anti-Russian warmongering coalition of the willing failed to outplay the president of the United States. So he's going to stroke Trump's ego on his turf. Europe thanked and sucked up to him. The question is which tune the Kyiv clown will play, that's a reference to Zelenskyy, about guarantees and territories back home once he's put on his green military uniform again. Now, that's also, I'm sure of it, can't prove it completely, but in response to the video clip I played of Zelenskyy standing in front of the White House saying, I was able to tell you the truth about the war front, and anything about territories is between Putin and I. And you say, okay, well, who's Medvedev? Take a look at this picture, guys, from years ago. This is the relationship that Putin and Medvedev have. Standing in the rain, they're the warriors of Russia. This is the former president of Russia who exchanged with prime minister, now in Security Council duties. So This is a key relationship for Vladimir Putin and one who has his ear. Now, the final thing I want to share with you is Lavrov. Lavrov saying today crazy stuff. Well, we never wanted to take Ukraine anyway. Okay, but you put the four regions and Crimea on your books, your constitution. He says our goal has never been to simply seize territories, whether Crimea, Donbass, or Novorossiya, but we've sought to protect the Russians. This is what he said just a couple of hours ago. He says, we see the U.S. president's team sincerely wants to achieve a long term result. The meeting between Putin and Trump in Alaska demonstrated this intention. And he then said, if Zelenskyy is so concerned about the Ukrainian constitution, we must consider the articles that require the preservation of Russian rights. So we can tell from that, what are we going to see? And he also said, we're not opposed to raising the level of communications, but we are going to see a battle come down between the Russian Constitution and the Ukrainian Constitution. And you and I know that the Ukrainian Constitution stands legitimately, and these regions are Ukraine. So, what happens next? We shall see. The Coalition of the Willing meeting happening now. We'll see what comes from that. I can tell you that the front lines are tough. And right now, air alarms in Chernihiv region, there are drones flying there. This is the reality in Ukraine right now. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing, liking, and commenting. Be blessed, and we'll be back at you very soon.